Hello everyone, I'm Brian Croydragon and welcome to today's Truth or Scare commentary, the true story of Halloween, which I had done before as a double feature with Cast and Ghosts of Scotland. It's given its own proper commentary today. Let's get started.
Every year, on one special night, people all over the world find the fun.
I remember this episode.
In
It
fear.
was early in the morning when I first saw it.
For most of us, Halloween is the night for fright. Complete with
And it was
costumes,
creepy.
trick-or-treating, and more candy than you can ever eat. But did you ever wonder where all of these different traditions come from? Find out when Truth or Scare.
And as always, I'm curious what documentary was reformatted. I want to see the whole thing. I want to see the original thing.
For most of us, Halloween isn't all that scary, right? Witches flying around on brooms? Who actually believes in that? And if you ever run into a demon, it's probably just your little brother in a rubber mask. But the true origins of Halloween go back thousands of years, to a time when some people say dark magic and evil spirits were very real. Over 2,000 years ago, people known as the Celts lived in ancient Europe, the British Isles, and Ireland. They had their own languages, customs, and religion, and handed them down from generation to generation. Each year, they would honor their gods and goddesses on 8 different festival days. Their celebrations were led by Celtic priests, known as Druids. Some thought these mysterious men could actually control the forces of nature and even cast magic spells. The Celts' biggest celebration of the year was called Samhain. It was on October 31st,
The Gaels.
the day we know
The
as Halloween.
Irish Celts were called the Gaels and
Samhain
spelled
marked the
R.
end of
I'm
the summer
Gaelic
harvest
Irish.
and the
I should
beginning of
know.
winter. Since most people in ancient times were farmers, finishing the hard work of the harvest was a huge reason to celebrate. But it wasn't the only one. They also wanted to make sure that they paid proper respect to their gods, who they believed would watch over them during the long, cold, brutal months ahead. Today, we don't celebrate Halloween for the same reasons, but a lot of our traditions started with the Celts. Bobbing for apples, carving pumpkins, and even trick-or-treating can be traced all the way back to those ancient times. And for some, the connection to the past even determines how they live today. Fiona Horn is a witch from Australia. She says that modern witches like her follow the same traditions as the Druids, and that Halloween, or Samhain, is a very important celebration.
Halloween, or Samhain as we call it, is considered the time that we can best communicate with those that we love who have departed, those who have gone and who are in the spirit world, because we think the veils between the worlds have lifted and it's the best time to communicate with them.
Some might find that just a bit creepy, but Fiona believes there's nothing to be afraid of. To her, the spirits of the next world are fascinating, not frightening. But the ancient Celts didn't think so. They thought that dark spirits could come out on Samhain, and if they did, no one knew what would happen. But they did know this. The legend said these unfriendly ghosts would be afraid of fire, so they would light torches and bonfires, hoping to keep the dark spirits away from the ancient Samhain celebrations. According to the stories, they would dance around the fires and even wear masks, all to give the sinister spooks a major fright. Other theories claim that the Samhain celebrations were all about impressing the ancient Celtic gods, because they believed if the gods were pleased, they would make sure that the crops grew again next year.
Oh,
And just
come
what
now,
did
they're
it
not as
take to
grown
impress
as the
a
Greek
Celtic god?
gods.
Some say it's possible that ancient druids might have sacrificed live animals in their ceremonies. But others claim that the victims of some druid rituals weren't just animals, but humans. Even though most witches today don't believe the hideous rumors, back in the druids' time, some people did. In the 7th century, Christian missionaries tried to get rid of the traditional Samhain festival because they thought the Celtic celebration might be evil. There was just one problem. Most people in Europe and the British Isles liked their holidays, believing that Samhain honored the dead and kept evil away. They weren't about to stop celebrating on October 31st. So the Christian leaders decided, if you can't beat them, join them. They declared November 1st All Saints' Day, a day to worship all their own holy people, who were known back then as Hallows. Then, the night before was set aside to remember the souls of all the people who had passed away. It was called All Hallows' Eve, a Christian version of the Druid celebration. And since then, the name of this day to honor the dead has been shortened to Halloween. Vampires, black cats, and the terrifying history behind trick-or-treat. Next on Truth or Scare.
The Gaggle is back on Discovery Kids.
The ancient legends say the Druids were some of the first people to celebrate on Halloween. Could they have ever imagined that one day Halloween would be celebrated by millions? Today, modern witches carry on ancient traditions that were begun centuries ago. But if you think communicating with the dead is scary these days, in medieval times, it was positively terrifying. Back then, people believed that witches were extremely powerful and had a direct link to the spirit world. Some even thought they could fly.
Now, as I
It
said,
started when a man in medieval England claimed he'd seen a woman on a broomstick soaring past the full moon.
I saw this long
Witches
ago,
haven't
and
been able
when I
to
first
shake their
saw this, it was
reputation
early
as
in the
high
morning.
flyers.
My
But it
parents were
wasn't
either
just about
at work
flying.
or asleep.
Many people believed witches had other remarkable
I
powers,
was up early.
just as frightening. Like if a witch just felt like it, she could turn herself into a black cat.
And the sun was
Legend says that one day a
just
medieval
rising.
man was watching a peasant woman, a woman he thought might just be a witch. He claimed that he saw her walk into an alley, and then, a few seconds later, a black cat ran out. The man looked everywhere for the woman, but she was gone. Many people were so terrified of black cats, they did a lot more than steer clear. They'd try to get rid of them. Sounds terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But cats weren't the only ones being persecuted. If you were accused of being a witch and practicing the mystical arts, the penalty could be death. Witches and Halloween go together like trick and treat, but some say they're not the only ones who come out that night. Think about it. Halloween is a night for remembering the dead, so it only makes sense that vampires would show up for the party. And trust me, vampires is one subject I know a little something about. The legend of the vampire comes from old European folktales. A half-human, half-monster who sleeps all day and then comes out at night to hunt for victims. According to the stories,
I think the sun might have been rising
like
just
witches,
as
could
this
change
was
themselves into
finishing.
animals, like
So
wolves
it
and, of
actually would have
course,
still been
bats.
dark out.
Like vampires, bats only come out at night, and some species are even known to actually suck blood. So you can imagine how that story got started. In fact, it seems like a lot of the history behind Halloween comes in the form of some pretty strange tales. But the most important part of Halloween today
Oh yeah,
might
that
just be
definitely
based on
creeped me
true
out.
facts.
I
And it's
remember
one of the
that.
most chilling stories of all. I'm talking about the true origin of trick or treating.
Trick or treating.
There are a few different theories about how candy collecting got its start.
Right.
Trick or treating.
One tradition came from around 1000 AD in England, when poor people reportedly visited neighbors' houses, begging for small homemade cakes. In exchange for the cake, they agreed to say a prayer for the souls of the neighbors' departed relatives. This was called souling. But others think trick-or-treating comes from another, much older tradition. According to the ancient Celtic legend, everyone in the village would make a special dish to share with their neighbors. Then, everyone would go from house to house and try each other's delicious treats. It was almost like a giant potluck dinner. Sounds innocent enough. But according to Fiona, the modern-day witch, there was a dark side to this tradition.
But if you didn't give generously, then you were a bad person and you got a trick. And it was kind of a way of weighing up how good or bad you were.
Back then, getting a trick was something to avoid at all costs. Because sometimes it could actually cost you your life. The sacred secrets of the witch's apple, and the chilling tale of the first jack-o'-lantern. Next on Truth or Scare.
The Gaggle. The Gaggle is back on Discovery Kids.
Is there anything more innocent than bobbing for apples? How about carving a jack-o'-lantern? Messy, sure, but it's about the most harmless fun you can have. Or is it? Could apples possibly have something to do with witches? Fiona Horn says yes. Modern witches like her believe that apples contain something sacred.
The apple is considered a symbol of love and fertility.
But it wasn't just witches who believed that apples had mystical properties. Today, bobbing for apples is a game where
Lost
getting
my
red is
first
the
tooth
only
to an
concern.
apple.
But in the Middle Ages,
Was eating
you
one,
might bob for apples on
and
Halloween
the
to
tooth was
see
just
what your
stuck right
future
in
might
there.
hold.
That's how it
All
got
the young
out.
people who weren't married would try to bite an apple that was tied to a string or floating in water. According to legend, the first person who bit the apple would be the next to get married, just like the person who catches the bouquet at a wedding today. Now that's some seriously powerful fruit. But the legend behind a certain Halloween vegetable may just be a little more.
Oh yeah. Oh
Take
lord,
a
this freaked me.
pumpkin,
This
carve it.
actually scared me.
You've got yourself a jack-o'-lantern. The best ones can make for a pretty scary sight. But that's nothing compared to the terrifying legends of how the tradition started. Some say it all began in the days of the Celts. The Celts didn't use pumpkins in their Samhain celebration. They used actual human skulls. They'd place them on an altar, their hollow eyes staring back at the villagers. It sounds awful, but it wasn't meant to scare them. It was to remember the people who had passed from this life to the next. According to Fiona, today's pumpkin faces are just our modern version of the ritual skulls.
They would reflect that tradition, and then carving the face into the pumpkin is to represent the skull, the ancestral skull.
But some say that jack-o'-lanterns have nothing to do with honoring the dead, and everything to do with staying alive. One legend says that when the Celts needed protection in the dark woods, they would carve skull faces into turnips and make them into terrifying torches. But there's one more theory on how jack-o'-lanterns began, and many say it's the creepiest. It comes from an old
yeah, here we
Irish
go.
folktale
Here
that
we
says
go.
jack-o'-lanterns might just have demonic connections. The legend says that Jack was a real person, famous for playing nasty practical jokes. But one day, he tried playing a joke on the devil. Jack tricked the devil into climbing up a tree, where the devil got stuck and was unable to climb down. Jack had fooled his victim that day, but the devil got the last laugh. According to legend, when Jack died, his spirit was forced to wander alone through the darkness forever. And to light his way, all he had was a little turnip lantern. Some say that when Irish immigrants came to the United States, they brought this legend with them.
In
And
Canada.
since pumpkins were much more plentiful in the US, they replaced turnips as the jack-o'-lantern of choice. And the rest is Halloween history. What started with some druids dancing around a bonfire has turned into the biggest party of the year. Next on Truth or Scare.
The Gaggle is back on Discovery Kids.
Despite its ancient roots, Halloween is pretty much a new thing in North America. Irish immigrants brought it to the New World only a few hundred years ago. Since then, it's become one of America's most popular holidays. But if you think the fear factor's gone, think again. Halloween is the one night a year that a lot of us go out of our way to get a good fright. We tell ghost stories, dress in ghoulish costumes, maybe even check out the local haunted house. It's usually all just for fun. But when they're alone in the darkness, many people still feel that ancient fear creeping in. Dr. Robert Butterworth is an expert in the things we fear, and the dark is right at the top of the list.
Why are we afraid of the dark? Because the dark is associated with the unknown, mysterious, things that come out in the night. And a lot of people, things that come out of the night, they don't want to be around.
Except on one night of the year, that is. And in practically every country on Earth, different cultures celebrate spooky holidays, their own local versions of Halloween. It's the one night when the things that would usually frighten us become the reason to throw a party. Mexico has one of the biggest of these celebrations. It's the Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead.
I
Just like the
watched
name
Coco
says,
just a couple
on this
nights
day,
ago, so
Mexicans take time to remember their family members who have passed away. They visit the graves of their ancestors and decorate them with skulls and skeletons. They also light candles and say special prayers. It looks different than what the ancient Celts did, but the basic idea is the same. Here in Mexico, the Day of the Dead is a happy time, a traditional way to remember loved ones who are gone. In the US, the focus is more on the spirits who are still hanging around. But the only contact most Americans have with them is the pretend kind. Haunted houses are a fun way to be totally terrified. And it's not just houses. The Queen Mary is one of the biggest cruise ships in the world, docked on the coast of Southern California in Long Beach. Every year for Halloween, it's set up to scare, with 7 different mazes that lead visitors through every corner of the ship. But get this, the Queen Mary's nickname is the Grey Ghost. Many people swear that it's truly haunted all year round. Could one of these ghouls be the real thing? No one knows for sure, but with hundreds of rooms, it would be the perfect place to hide. If you're seeing hundreds of ghosts, then you're probably at Knott's Berry Farm. Well, sort of. Because for Halloween, this world-famous amusement park in California transforms itself into Knott's Scary Farm, the scariest place in the West. After 27 years of practice, the people at Knott's know how to put on a first-class night of fright. On Halloween, more people come here for fear than any place in the world. They've got it all. Spooks, specters, monsters, demons, even a lunatic or two. What more could you ask for? Even though we know this is an amusement park, and that this is just some guy in a mask, the fear still feels real. But is that all it is? A feeling? Or could there possibly be something to truly fear on Halloween? Dr. Butterworth says no way. Well, almost no way.
I'll tell you, if on Halloween you see a spirit, 99.99% it's not.
But guess what? Fiona is positive there's nothing to fear.
I don't think there's anything to be afraid of on Halloween except if you go trick-or-treating and you don't get any treats.
And there you have it, straight from a real witch's mouth. But even though there's probably nothing to be afraid of on Halloween, now that you know the history, all it could take is one look into the darkness to make us wonder if we're wrong. Over the centuries, Halloween has gone through more than a few changes. But should we really be scared on Halloween night? Could the mysterious legends and creepy stories be true? Or are those strange visions and ghostly creatures in the shadows really just trick-or-treaters after all?
Well, where do I go now? Just end or talk about my Halloween memories, my trick-or-treating memories? They weren't very distinguished. So I don't see a reason to talk about them. I'm Brian Croydragon signing out. Stay Shrey.